episode of Ministry Wisdom with Pastor Luke StClair and First Lady TJ StClair. Thank you for being on. Is there anything you would like to say before we continue?
No, sir, but I do appreciate the opportunity, Brother Jordan. Thank you for allowing us to be with you and looking forward to the interview. It'll be good.
Can you tell in your own words how you got started in ministry and your testimony?
Sure. I started ministry very young. I don't really remember a time in my life that I didn't want to be a preacher. When my family evangelized full time, I was very, very young. I would preach or teach, whatever you want to call it, to youth groups and Sunday school classes, and then finally stepped out into a calling at 13 years of age and started traveling myself, preaching and evangelizing. As Paul Harvey said, now you know the rest of the story. So, yeah, it's been a great ride.
And you?
I was raised in a pastor's home, so that's pretty much all I've ever known.
We're doing good.
When I graduated high school, I came to Indiana Bible College, and when I graduated 4 years later, went right into ministry, worked at Calvary Tabernacle.
I got three concussions. Yeah.
We got married. 17 years later, here we are.
Can you tell what are the two people that have most impacted your life?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Obviously, first and foremost would be my father. My dad is he's such a blessing in my life to this very day. Made a huge impact. My parents would be the easiest way for me to answer those two people, but ministerially wise, I would say my dad, my bishop, and probably the second would be my uncle, Mike Bingham. Those two voices have been very loud and still continue to speak in my life on a regular basis.
My parents too, first and foremost, my mom and dad. They raised me, taught me the way, and then probably as far as ministry-wise, working under the leadership of Brother Pastor Paul and Sister Rika, that I was around most in ministry early on, that showed me the way.
This one is focused on you.
Okay.
How can you tell if the saints have a teachable spirit and why is it necessary in the church?
Oh man, that's a great question, and it usually doesn't take very long to find out. A teachable spirit is certainly one that's going to be very approachable with a humble spirit. You can tell the willingness to learn. The people that don't have a teachable spirit are usually the ones that are looking for exit ramps to get off the main course. Why is this necessary? Why do we still have to do that? And it's important in the church because that teachable spirit, obviously, a pastor can read the heart of that person and do so much more with them than somebody that you're always having to answer questions of why we shouldn't or why not. That multiple spirit's so incredible, it's huge.
And this one's for you. You have a leadership with music and other ways. Was your calling as a pastor's wife, or was it in music and then pastor's wife came?
That's a very good question. I think going into, if I look back when I came to Indiana, I always knew I would be involved in ministry, being raised in it, being a pastor's daughter, and I guess I could honestly say I thought I would go another career-wise as far as I choose something else, but there was a call of God in my life. And so once I started focusing on music, I think it was just a byproduct of where I knew I would end up. It just kind of all melded together. I love music and I love doing what I do, but I knew probably somewhere down the road I'd end up doing exactly what I had been raised in, which was I was a pastor's kid, so I knew I would probably end up in pastoral ministry somewhere.
This one, what does the submission to spiritual authority look like in your eyes?
A teachable spirit. To go with your previous question. The easiest way to answer that, Brother Jordan, is truly that submission begins where agreement ends. You've never really had to submit to somebody until they've disagreed with you. And as a pastor, that's a pretty big deal. You know, somebody can say to you that they're submitted, and the moment you disagree with something in their life and they turn and walk away, that means they weren't submitted.
I want to ask you both this. In your eyes, how can a saint best support their pastor and staff?
For me, a big thing is loyalty. I love knowing that I can depend on someone no matter what. And loyalty is big for me. To be able to trust and have a loyal support group. I mean, that's just the way it is. I want to know that you've got my back because I've got your back if you've got mine, type of thing. Which is a fine line you walk in ministry because not everybody will. But loyalty is just a big deal.
I would concur with that. It's a blessing having people that you know every time the doors are open, they're going to be there. Just being faithful. Very thankful for a praying church that holds us up and prays for us. So prayer would be paramount, number one, and faithfulness and loyalty would be right there with it, for sure.
What, whoever wants to take it or you both, what do you want a saint that can't find something specific to pray for you about? What do you want them to pray for you?
Probably just strength for a home. I mean, I think sometimes, not just as a pastor's wife, I'm a mother. So on any given Monday, it might be just my sanity. Things can be stressful, and sometimes we carry a big load, you know, with the stress of everybody's life going on, and we have a life too. And so I think just pray for our just stress to be low and love to be high.
Sure, I pray daily for wisdom in my life, for supernatural wisdom, and anytime somebody pray for me, I want them to ask God to grant me wisdom that I could lead the way He wants me to lead.
What is your advice to the young woman that has a call in her life and the young man that has a call in his life?
I think with young women, be sure of your calling, and I know that kind of it's kind of a two-sided thing. Be sure that you're called to what you're doing and not just what you think it's supposed to be. Because with your calling, there's wonderful blessings, but you'll climb mountains and you'll walk through valleys, and just to be sure that you know that God is first in everything you do. Because in the good times and the bad times, He is our strength. And so to any young woman, I would say be sure that your life is first and fully committed to the Lord, and let Him lead you and guide you.
For me, Brother Jordan, I would say getting back to the book. That is, if you can be faithful over a few things, He'll make you ruler over many. God wants a return on His investment. So if you're looking to do something for God, you've got to do something with what He's given you before you ask Him to give you more. Be faithful, your tithing, your offering, your attendance, praying for your pastor. In this generation, we teach people to pray to preach, to study to preach. We don't teach them to pray to live and to study to live. And so I think that's paramount, that personal relationship with God. If you can't pray fast and study the Word, you're a long ways from achieving your calling with God.
What ministry in today's church do you guys believe that is overlooked or undervalued?
Ooh, overlooked and undervalued. You know, this may sound strange, but I think something that we don't hear a lot of emphasis on anymore is like faithful, trustworthy altar workers. People that you know they're not going to say something silly, but when they see a sinner or a backslider or somebody in the altar, you can trust that person to know they're going to speak with wisdom and pray with compassion, love people. That's certainly not the only one, but it's definitely one that I feel like we need more of in the church.
What are you looking for in that young man or young woman that is under you that wants to be more involved and wants more opportunities, what do you want to see out of them before we give them
I would probably kind of answer that congruent with the last one. Just be faithful. I think there's a misconception, perhaps, that unless pastor asks you to do it, then you don't have to. And I'm looking for that person that they've got the initiative to jump in there and do something, get their hands dirty. Like, you don't need my permission to teach Bible studies. You don't need my permission to win wash. You don't need my permission to pray. That's what I'm looking for, is somebody that's got the initiative, and I don't have to give them the incentive. They just want to please God. That's kind of what I'm shooting for.
Don't need your permission to take the trash out.
Right. Yes, sir.
Definitely not.
That's very true.
And what are you looking for that person that wants to be involved in music, choir, etc.?
But it goes back to the same thing we talked about earlier with faithfulness, because when God is first and you're faithful doing what you're supposed to be doing in every other aspect of the church, just doing what you should be doing, it'll fall into place musically, because people that want to be there and they love being faithful to God and faithful to church and in attendance and everything, music ministry is just going to fall into place. If that's where they choose to be, whether it's the choir or a musician or whatever they're doing, it's just being faithful, because it's a team effort. So without faithfulness, when one person's missing, the whole body feels it. So probably my number one thing would be just faithfulness and attendance and just being there.
What do you believe is lacking in today's church? Anybody can take that.
Lacking is, it'd be kind of difficult to say one specific thing, but I think, Brother Jordan, authenticity is something that we need more of. Tonight, Brother Sanford preached here at WYC about the face mask, the hypocritical spirit hiding behind things. I think we need more authenticity, not only in the way we present ourselves to God, but to each other, to just be real. If you're not going to be involved in something, be real and say why you're not. Don't blame other people. If you're not faithful to God, don't blame it on somebody else. Just take ownership. I think that's a big deal, being able to take personal ownership, let the weight rest on your shoulders, and man up,
Anything like that?
No.
What do you believe the church is needing to reach that next level of life?
That's a great question, and believe it or not, my answer may be contrary to what you would think. Obviously, the things that we talk about most for revivals, like we need prayer, we need fasting, to me, that should already be happening. I would say the next level of revival for Pentecost would be doing what we already know to do, and then structure, setting up structure in our churches for growth. In other words, you don't wait until you have a baby to get the nursery ready. You get the nursery ready when you're expecting. And so we're asking God for revival, and what we're really saying sometimes when we ask God for revival is, Lord, you do all the work, you send all the people, and we'll sit back and enjoy it. And that's not how revival works. We need to stop praying for revival and start praying for structure, that God would give us a skeletal structure in our church that, like Ezekiel's vision, without the bone structure, you're not going to have the muscle, the skin, the strength to stand up. We need that skeleton in the body. So structure is very, very important to me for the next level of revival.
That is obviously the biggest thing. I think also is just letting people know, when you talk about revival and adding souls to the kingdom, they're like, I'm scared to talk to people, or I don't know who to invite, or I don't know. If everybody would just start even within their families, and I know in our personal congregation, our church family, if our people would just reach for their families, we say this often, if our families would reach that, our walls would be busting out. People automatically think, well, I've got to go down the street and talk to a stranger. You meet people every day. We talk to people every day. And I'm like, if everybody's uncomfortable, just start even with your family. It's a huge start right there.
I know from my personal family, right now, I'm the only one that's in church
Yes.
myself, so you're exactly right. Absolutely. What is your advice to the young man in that moment in ministry of today?
Stay the course. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no shortcuts. If you want it, you're going to have to grit it out. I'm a firm believer, Brother Jordan, that a man's life will go further than he ever dreamed if he'll just do the basics. I'm kind of the old school. People talk about going on long periods of fasting, and I've done that when I felt called to the Lord to do it. 21 days and 40 days, people talk about that. But if you think about this, if a person will fast 1 day a week, they fasted 52 days in a year. And that's so much better to me than going on a 21-day fast and then not fasting for 2 years, saying, oh, I obeyed God. That simple structure, an hour of prayer a day, a day of fasting a week, keep your face in the Word. Man, there is no replacement for that. And there's no shortcuts to it. If you want spiritual results, you have to do spiritual things, and you can't get spiritual results from carnal things. And so that's the key to me, is do what you know to do before you ask God for something else to do. Just do what you know to do and watch doors start opening.
It's like my pastor keeps telling me, he said, you can't have a bunch of things that I've given you to do that you're only doing halfway and expect
That's
to
right.
do more.
It's so true. It's so
Be
true.
willing to work, because it is work. And I think there's a misconception in ministry that, oh, you don't do anything. And it's true work, and my advice is you've got to be prepared to not wear your feelings on your shoulders and your sleeve,
it's true.
because you'll get hurt in the process. You put faith and trust in people and they hurt you. But you depend on people and they don't show up, or it's probably kind of like any other career in the world. There's going to be, the difference is when you're on a job, you might have a time card that you're stamping and in and out and going, and sometimes in ministry there's no time card being punched, but you just got to keep going. And I think my one phrase I would say is just don't sweat the small stuff, because there's going to be ups and downs, there's blessings and shortcomings, things that happen, but just if God is at the center of it, Jesus at the center of it all. That's what it has to be, that way.
I have one last question. I know me, being single by myself, it's hard, but finding my way.
Sure.
What is your advice to the young singles of today's church?
That's a good question. Again, it comes down to taking care of what you've got before you ask God for more. And if God can't count on you to be faithful by yourself, He's certainly not going to give you somebody else to take care of. And single, it's a little bit different, because everybody looks at you a little bit different. You're kind of out there by yourself. So I'll tell you, first of all, keep your nose clean. Do the right thing. And put God first, and quit asking God for a wife or a husband, and just start seeking first His kingdom, because His Word declares if we seek first His kingdom, He'll take care of the rest. So that's my advice, man. Just be faithful. Just keep plugging, and if you can't be faithful when you're single, you won't be faithful when you're married.
Right. I agree with what he said, because it's, I know probably in the apostolic movement, there's this weird pressure sometimes that you're supposed to get married young. I was 25 when we got married. I'd already been through school. Some people get married very young. Some people wait. I have no regrets. I think with the older you are, the harder it is, because you kind of become set in your ways. But at the same time, you mature. And when you come together in a unit, you're learning each other and learning everything. But in ministry-wise, it doesn't mean you can't be successful if you're by yourself. And I think if you lose focus of thinking, oh, I've got to do this by myself and I'm going to be alone forever, it's not about that. When you're doing what God's called you to do, He's preparing the right one for you at the right time. And I think our biggest problem is trying to push God's time clock. And you just gotta stay the course, like you said, and let God do what He's going to do.
I know I've been there. I've tried to push people that I found out if I would have went with this person, they're out of church now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
God's timing is perfect.
That's right.
I want to thank you for.
Thank you, Brother Jordan. Appreciate you very much.